Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, I'll be doing a review of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars, so let's get into it. So one thing to understand is that this game is not a remake of any of these games. It's just kind of a refresh and HD update to the game. So go into it understanding that you're basically getting the exact same games that were released years before. And for me, I don't necessarily have the nostalgia goggles on, playing these games. Maybe it's blasphemous to say, but I've never been a huge Mario fan to begin with. I enjoy the games, but I definitely prefer other games like Zelda and Mega Man and Castlevania and Final Fantasy, a lot of different genres, survival horror, fighting games. And so, the 3D platforming games have never really been my favorite genre, but they're good games overall. And so coming into it, I wasn't, dying to play these games by any means that I needed to have those Mario games, but I really got a lot of these games late in their lifespan, except for Mario Sunshine. So Super Mario 64, I did not have a Nintendo 64 right when it launched. I got it several years after it had been out, and I wasn't even able to get a cartridge of Super Mario 64 until maybe, 3, 4, 5 years after the system had kind of had its run, right? And so I didn't have nostalgia goggles then going into it, and I wasn't a huge fan of the platforming per se because I felt the controls were pretty difficult, if I didn't grow up on it necessarily. Moving into Super Mario Sunshine, when I got that game, me and my buddy actually in middle school, couldn't drive yet, so we ended up biking several hours to pick up this game on launch day. We had to bike to the mall, which was, maybe a 30-minute drive, but on bikes it took a long time. And I remember getting it home and playing it, and it was fun, but, like I said, I'm not the biggest Mario fan, so it wasn't really the greatest thing ever by any means. And then Super Mario Galaxy, I got that several years after it came out as well. I actually only played it for the first time a couple of years ago. I was able to find it at GameStop, a used copy, and pick it up and play it on the Wii. So again, I didn't have a ton of time putting into these games at the start, and then now being able to replay them. I think mostly what I was excited about was the ability to use, a Nintendo Switch Pro controller compared to maybe some of the old controls. And that was one thing that made it super hard playing Mario 64, even recently, was just the camera angles and having to use that C button to adjust things. Again, if you grew up on it, awesome, but I know for me, going back and playing it was extremely difficult, being used to the 2 joystick option now to actually control cameras when it comes to 3D platformers. And so like I said, the games themselves, they are not remakes, they're just emulation on the new hardware for the Nintendo Switch. And one thing I did notice right away though, especially with Mario 64, is the graphics are a lot crisper and a lot clearer, and they just look a lot better on the system. One thing I thought was kind of weird though with the 64 version is that it was not widescreen. When I got this, my girlfriend set up a TV right next to me. She was playing on the original Nintendo 64. I was playing this new version. And so you could really see the difference in the graphics. They looked a lot better in this HD version. They were pretty blurry on her end with the original Nintendo 64. But one thing that was kind of weird is that the original version actually scaled to the TV. So it became widescreen using the video hookups. But for some reason, this game is not in widescreen, which is a little bit weird. I guess I didn't necessarily notice or see that big of a difference when I was playing it in the 4:3 ratio on the TV, but I just thought that was kind of weird that they didn't make it a widescreen version on this new 3D All-Stars version. But one thing I did notice immediately playing the Super Mario 64 is that they basically mapped the camera angles to this second joystick. And that is so much better. It's unbelievable for me. Now, again, if you maybe grew up using the C buttons and you're used to that, awesome, but I did not, and I hated that aspect of moving the camera around. And so just having it in this second joystick was so much more natural playing, much more like modern games that you're playing in 3D. And so I really like that a lot in this game, having that ability. Moving to Super Mario Sunshine, with that game, The controls were pretty much normal. Like I said, the GameCube controller was basically like these more modern controllers. It didn't necessarily have 2 joysticks, but it did have kind of a second C button joystick almost, where you could move the camera angle around when you played that game. Now, one thing that's a little bit weird is that the flood device, when you're shooting the water standing still, is not inverted. And so for me, I play every video game inverted, and it drives me nuts not playing that way. So it's a little bit hard to get used to when you're playing. But once you get past that hurdle, it's fine playing the game. Moving into Super Mario Galaxy, when you're playing that, with it in the original Wii version, you had your Wiimote to kind of run around, but then aim at the screen and shoot little stars as they came in to kind of collect those and gather those. And now playing on the Switch, you've got the Joy-Cons, and I think that's really the best way to play this game. I started playing it with the Pro Controller, and you know, the platforming aspects were totally fine doing that, but it got a little weird trying to maneuver the controller to aim like a Joy-Con would, while also actually holding onto the controller and putting buttons. So that was a little bit challenging to do that. They did give you the ability to just push the Y button to do kind of the spin move, where before you actually had to kind of shake the joystick on the Wiimote to make that happen. And so it's able to be played on this. If you have kind of the Switch Lite version, you can just simply touch the screen, or if you're playing in handheld mode, you can just simply tap the screen when you want to gather the stars. So that works too. Now the games themselves, like I said, they're good games if you enjoy 3D platforming games, if you like Mario games. You know, again, they're obviously good games. So, you know, Mario 64, you're going around the castle trying to save the princess from Bowser, and you're jumping through various paintings and portals on the walls. And as you find them, you unlock more stars to unlock new levels, and there's 120 stars in the game, but you don't necessarily need to get all of them to beat the game itself. And a lot of the stars are very challenging. Again, the controls themselves, even with the adjustment of the camera angles, there is some weird camera angles, but this is also really pretty much the first 3D platforming game there was. So expect some annoyances as you're playing the game through that. But the game does look great, which is awesome. Moving on to Super Mario Sunshine. Again, the controls are great there with this Pro Controller. That's how I played it. And for a lot of people, Super Mario Sunshine isn't necessarily their favorite. I know it's not my favorite. I think I am going to give it more of a second chance though, going back and playing through. And then moving on to Galaxy, that one I really enjoyed a lot going through and playing, and I recommend playing that for sure. It's one of the best 3D Mario games there is. So I highly recommend playing through that, but I think I would also recommend playing it with those Joy-Cons, as I mentioned, versus maybe a Pro Controller, because you are able to aim and it works pretty well, just like the Wiimote did on the original hardware. Looking at the actual collection itself, since it is just a collection, they're not remakes or redesigns of the game by any mean. One thing that they did change on the Super Mario 64 version, it's not the original US version that you played maybe growing up. And so some of the things are a little bit different, like when you throw Bowser, he says bye-bye, which is new instead of so long Bowser, right? And so it's a little bit different in that aspect. And if you happen to be a speedrunner, I know I'm not, but my girlfriend's brother is. So a lot of the tricks that you can do in that have actually been patched out, where you're not able to do them like you could in the game that originally came out on the 64. But again, for a casual player like me, going in and playing this game, it didn't really make a difference at all, and I really like the improved controls on it. Now, some of the extra stuff that comes with the games, you do have it all in one package, which is great. There's a simple menu that you can scroll through. You also get access to the soundtrack of all 3 games, so that's pretty cool. And, you know, it's got some of the best video game music out there for Mario games, so that's fun to be able to play those whenever you want, all in one collection. Now, beyond that, there's not actually a whole lot else that goes with this game. So there's not really a photo gallery or history on a lot of the games or anything like that. But to be honest, I've played other collections. You know, I'm a way bigger fan of like the Mega Man series, for example. I've gotten those collections, and there is artwork, there is extra things in those, but I don't necessarily ever even go through those. So again, it's not necessarily the end of the world that this collection didn't necessarily contain any of that stuff, because for me, I'm just really looking to play the games more than anything. So if you're looking for like a crisp, high definition experience of the games, this is a great collection. I think it's worth picking up if you want to replay these games again. And just the mere convenience of it, I like that too. You know, it's a $60 game, so there's not really a discount per se on these games, but you get 3 high quality games for the price of a mainstream video game right now. So it's a good deal in that sense, but also just the convenience of it. You know, having to go back through, set up, you know, 3 different systems. Your new TVs might not even be able to play some of the hookups that you have with the GameCube and the Super Mario 64. So that makes it even more difficult. You might need to go find an older TV to play these. And again, I like the controls better in this version on the 64 and the GameCube version. And then it plays the new Galaxy Wii version just fine on the Switch with the Joy-Con. So I think just having them in one complete package. The games themselves are great, especially if you like Mario games. You're going to like these a lot. And for what it is, just being a collection, I think they did a great job. They could have included more, but I don't really think that's a deal breaker. And then you might want to pick this up when you can also, because to my understanding, they're going to discontinue sales of this for some reason. I don't know why Nintendo would do that, but to my understanding, they're going to stop actually selling these in stores and even take it away from the digital shop. So who knows if they're going to just release these games individually. Maybe they're going to bring back the virtual consoles on the Switch. I'm not sure what their plan is, but this is going away. So if you want to pick up a copy, I would definitely recommend getting it while you can. But let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think about Super Mario 3D All-Stars? Are you a fan? Do you hate the emulation that they use? Do you think it's weird that they didn't include widescreen on the Mario 64 version? Let me know in the comments below. But if you guys like this video, be sure to smash that like button. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out here. And if you'd like to help us support the channel, pick out content and more, consider becoming a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us on Twitch over at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.